And now,
from South Africa's economic heart, this is the Sandton Times Hour with your host,
Alexander.
Welcome wherever you find yourself. This is Sandton Times Hour, edition 247. It's week 24 of 2026. I'm Alexander Leipner. If you're listening for the very first time, drop us a line on your preferred platform. I'd love to welcome you and love to hear from you. And if you're a regular listener in Sandton, South Africa, or somewhere across the globe, be it online or on air, greetings from the skylines of Sandton. And it's the final countdown for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. And while some might say things are heating up this week as we look forward to that opening match, well, I'm sitting here with a hot water bottle and a massive winter jacket as temperatures are well and truly into the winter months. But that won't stop us from enjoying what is to come over the next month. This week, we are single-mindedly focusing on the World Cup. Bafana Bafana having qualified for the biggest football tournament on the planet, and I'm sure many fans will be backing the home team, and it's bringing back memories. I remember the amazing send-off that we had for Bafana Bafana in 2010. The streets of Sandton were shut down. It was a sea of green and gold wherever you looked. I think the bus struggled to even get through the streets of Sandton as we celebrated the team competing in the 2010 FIFA World Cup. It feels like a bit of deja vu, and we've got a great show lined up for you. So here we go. In a bit, we park our regular car segment to make way for a chat about Bafana Bafana and the team's chances over the group stages. Will they get out? Will they make it to the next round? Well, we're going to find out shortly. Then I connect with an international author who's attended 9 World Cups to chat about the 2026 FIFA World Cup and what's in store. So we're going to be finding out a little bit more. As always, I then catch up with our regular entertainment commentator to take a look at some football-inspired entertainment for the week. And finally, we connect with Mexico to find out how our team is preparing and a little bit about what they'll be wearing on the field. Stick around for this and a whole lot more football. This week's soccer-filled hour is going to be a good one. I would love to hear from you on it, so maybe we get a chance to share some of your feedback over the coming weeks. So do get in touch, send through your questions, comments, or feedback, and you can do so. Email editor@sandtontimes.co.za. Connect on social media @Sandton Times. You can WhatsApp 084 Sandton, that's 084 726 3866. 084 726 3866 in South Africa to send through your voice notes, text messages, exclusive to the Sandton Times Hour. And then there's the website, sandtontimes.co.za. If you're not part of our podcast community, be sure to subscribe to the Sandton Times Hour on one of your favorite podcast platforms, whichever one you prefer. It's free for nooks, and you can catch up on previous interviews and so much more.
online,
On air.
anywhere, anytime.
This is
The Sandton Times Hour.
WhatsApp your voice notes to the Sandton Times Hour.
On 084 Sandton. That's 084 726 3866.
After a 16-year wait, Bafana Bafana are back on football's biggest stage, and the challenge could hardly be more intriguing. Drawn into Group A alongside co-hosts Mexico, Asian powerhouse South Korea, and a resurgent Czechia, Hugo Broos's side faces a fascinating test of character, tactical discipline, and belief. With South Africa targeting a place in the knockout rounds for the first time in history, we'll unpack what to expect, relive the 2010 opening moments, and ask the big question, can this golden generation write a new chapter in South African football history? Well, here to bring the experience is Soccer Laduma Senior Reporter Tshepang Mailwane. And Tshepang, welcome to the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate this. I'm looking forward to the chat.
Tshepang, I think certainly over the coming days, we're going to see soccer fever hitting an all-time high, especially when you're looking at a game like Bafana Bafana versus Mexico at the opening of a FIFA World Cup. What are your feelings at this point?
Yeah, there's a lot of excitement, and a part of me actually wishes I was in Mexico right now, because I was there in 2010 when we played against Mexico. I was at the stadium. I was covering that game, and it was awesome. And that excitement that I felt there was incredible. And I can imagine what the excitement is going to be in Mexico, because, I mean, we've seen it on TV, the passionate fans that they have. And so you can imagine what type of atmosphere it's going to be. It's going to be a big one for Bafana Bafana. And I mean, the pressure that they're under going into that game is massive, because it's the opening game of the World Cup. I think that viewership of the World Cup has increased so much since 2010. So you can imagine how many eyeballs will be on Bafana Bafana come June 11. And what's important is for them to be able to contain that pressure and get a result and upset the hosts.
Well, I was also in the World Cup stadium at, I think, F&B Stadium at the 2010 World Cup,
Yes.
and that opening goal by Bafana Bafana against Mexico was just electric. I mean, that stadium just exploded, and I have a feeling we're going to have a very similar experience should Bafana Bafana manage to hit that opening goal, which I think Mexico won't appreciate too much, but that's for them to work through. Hugo Broos has announced his squad. What is your feeling about the team heading to Mexico?
I think it's a good squad. We've got a lot of talent in that squad. I think what's important is that the squad that is selected, one, they go in there and deliver, because it's no use having a talented group of players who on the big stage can't get the job done. I mean, we have guys who have just come from seasons of winning silverware. For example, Orlando Pirates players have won the league title, and that's a big boost for them. Mamelodi Sundowns players have won the CAF Champions League, and that's a big boost for them. So this is where the likes of Ronwen Williams, Teboho Mokoena, Relebohile Mofokeng really need to stand out on the big stage, because they've had so much attention back here at home, and it would be nice to see them getting the same type of attention at the world stage. You remember when Sundowns were at the Club World Cup last year? The way so many people were excited to see that, oh wow, there's actually a South African team that can play so well. So we have that platform right now for them to go out there and get the job done. He selected a good squad. I'm not really the type of person to criticize the coach for the type of squad he selects, because every single coach has a way of playing. They look at the opponents, they see what it is that they need, and they select players based on that. You know, there are many people who might feel Aloch was left out. Lebohang Maboy was left out from Kaizer Chiefs. Brandon Peterson, the goalkeeper, was in good form, has been left out. And yes, I guess supporters have the right to ask those questions. But I always feel that the coach knows what he's doing, and at the end of the day, he's the one who takes responsibility. And you'd rather take responsibility with the players that you believe can get the job done for you. So I think it's a good squad.
Normally, when you look at these pool stages of the FIFA World Cup, some people say, oh, it's a pool of death if there's some really strong teams in there like Portugal, Germany, France. I think we've pulled a pretty good pool to get us going, maybe with a chance of getting into the next rounds. Let's have a quick look at some of these games. So South Africa, Mexico, what is your feeling on that opening game? Do you think that the home team might just take this one because of the euphoria of being at home? Or do you think that the visiting team from South Africa might actually have a chance at taking this one?
I do have a feeling that Mexico might just be a bit too strong for us playing in front of their supporters. I can't remember when was the last time Mexico had an opportunity to play in front of their fans. I don't know if the 1982 World Cup was in Mexico. 86, yes, 86. So it's been that long, and now they are playing in front of their home supporters, and the last thing you want to do is disappoint them, you know. So that's the game that I feel that we might not be able to win. But what I want to see in there is desire from our players and some positives, because when you have the desire and the positives, you go into the following game believing that you've got a chance of winning. The hosts are a difficult one, but then we need to go into the games against South Korea and Czechia and you know, try get something out of there. The good thing is that this World Cup, you are still able to qualify even if you don't finish in the top two, because there's the third best placed teams. I think it's 8 of them, if I'm not mistaken. So we do have a shot at progressing, and usually about 4 points is enough to send you through to the next round. So you try and get a draw and a win in those games, and you see yourself going into the next round, and that I'm sure would exceed the expectations of many South Africans, because yes, Mexico would be difficult, but you look at how South Korea qualified. They were scoring goals left, right, and center, and that means our defense is has to be solid on the day. And even though Czechia needed the playoffs to qualify, they have always been a team that has produced good quality of players that are playing around Europe. So it's gonna be a big challenge, but this is what our players need. They need to be tested, and with their test, grow in their game.
So if you're investing in a Bafana Bafana jersey for this FIFA World Cup, there's a good chance that you might be wearing it for more than just the 3 games, based on hopefully the team's performance, but also based on the mathematics of the way that this 48-team tournament is going to run this year. Any great places that you're going to be watching the World Cup, or are you going to be snuggled up in your lounge at home screaming at the TV?
Most of the time I'll be at home, but I know a few of the sponsors, the brands will be having some watch parties. I think 10Bet has one for the opening game, and I'm planning on going there. But the other ones, I'd rather scream at my television at home, knowing that there's no one judging me and looking at me in the way I scream at the TV. But it's always nice watching football with other people because of the vibe, the analysis you get from everyone else and the opinions that everyone else has. But I guess even here at home, I've got people that I can watch the game with, and they can enjoy watching me scream at the television.
Right, you are. Tshepang Mailwane, Soccer Laduma Senior Reporter, both of us channeling the team of 96, 30 years ago. Maybe there's a bit of a lucky streak there with round numbers. Maybe Bafana Bafana will put itself back on the map at this World Cup. We can only hope and see. Tshepang, it's been such a pleasure having you on the Sandton Times Hour, and thanks for the chat.
Thank you so much, Alex. Have a good one.
Follow the Sandton Times on social media at Sandton Times.
Football may be deciding 90 minutes of action, but the story of the World Cup is often written years before and even after a ball is kicked. And it's a story of nations, power, money, culture, and people. And very few writers have spent more time examining those forces than our next guest. An award-winning journalist and best-selling author, Simon Kuper, has spent decades exploring how football shapes the world around us. His latest book, World Cup Fever, A Soccer Journey in 9 Tournaments, explores how soccer evolved from semi-professional matches to a global phenomenon and everything that goes with it. As we count down to the 2026 FIFA World Cup, he joins us to discuss the biggest trends, stories, and questions facing the global game. And Simon, welcome to the Sandton Times Hour.
Pleasure to be here.
Simon, you've got a unique link with South Africa, apart from having watched all the action here in 2010.
Yes, well, many relatives of mine still live in Johannesburg and Cape Town, and both my parents were born and raised in Joburg and left in the early 60s. So yes, it's a homecoming for me to be on your program.
Do you have fond memories of the 2010 FIFA World Cup? I know it's probably evoking a lot of memories here as South Africa faces Mexico in the opening, like we did almost 16 years ago.
Yes, it was Chabalala's brilliant goal, wasn't it? Which I think was the highlight of the Bafana World Cup anyway, which I remember with great fondness. I was in the stadium in Soccer City. I think with the hindsight, it was a very disappointing World Cup for South Africa because there were all these absurd expectations raised by the governments at the time that it would bring jobs, it would bring foreign investment. Thabo Mbeki talked of an African renaissance. That was never going to happen. But these extraordinary expectations were never fulfilled in any way. South Africa was left with a lot of white elephant stadiums. So in a sense, I look back on that World Cup with sadness.
Well, we're now about to witness the opening whistle of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. What's your overall take on what's about to unfold in North America compared to what we've witnessed in World Cups to date?
Well, this is the biggest World Cup ever with 48 teams, which means that the quality of football will be lower than ever before. There's a lot of teams, I'm not saying including South Africa just possibly, but a lot of teams that are not as good, say, as a Premier League team in England or even a Championship team in England. In a sense, the World Cup isn't about quality. The World Cup is about the emotions of a whole nation supporting your team. And, you know, if a small country like Cape Verde, somebody puts the ball in the top corner, the whole world will be cheering. So the World Cup is not the best of football, but it is the most moving and important bit of football with this 48-team World Cup. The main characters are lined up to be Donald Trump and Gianni Infantino, but let's hope that once the football starts, they will be replaced by more salubrious figures.
Well, with so many teams involved and across 3 different countries, it is most likely also the most expensive World Cup in many ways. Is this a sign of the game growing, or is this just FIFA's commercial aspirations just getting bigger?
Well, having 48 teams means more TV content and so a little bit more money, although the TV rights sales in China and India were extraordinarily disappointing. I think Chinese TV only paid $60 million. So that hasn't really worked out. I think when they expanded to 48 teams, they hoped for China, India, Indonesia, huge markets to qualify. Instead, it's Curacao, Jordan, Uzbekistan. It's actually, in some ways, cheaper than the South African or Brazilian World Cups because South Africa and Brazil had to build all new stadiums. Every stadium in South Africa at that World Cup was built especially for the tournament. Whereas US, Mexico, and Canada haven't built a single new stadium. They already had them. That saves a lot of money.
A lot of discussion is around also the cost of attending the World Cup. I mean, a lot of people are quoting some incredible numbers, from flights to visas to accommodation to actual tickets, depending on what game you go to. I believe at the moment the cheapest games are the Austrian games to attend. So if you still have some aspirations to go, maybe that's the one to look at. But this is likely to be one of those World Cups that majority of the world are going to be watching on television screens and not necessarily in stadiums.
It's always the case that a tiny, tiny proportion of fans is in the stadium. 99.999% of the world experiences the World Cup as a TV event. There's nothing new about that. It's true that the ticket prices for this World Cup are higher than we've ever seen before. FIFA are trying to get thousands of dollars, often for very poor games. Nobody in their right minds would pay more than, $20 to see Austria against Jordan. But those were the prices. What you're seeing now online is prices are collapsing. I saw a Saudi Arabia Cape Verde ticket for $7 the other day. Wow. Admittedly, it's probably only worth $7, that match. But still, as the games approach and FIFA are left with all these unsold tickets that they're now having to get rid of, you're seeing this collapse in prices, except if you want to watch the US or Brazil. Even US Paraguay, the home team's first game, there's a lot of tickets still available.
What are some of the new things that we are anticipating to see in this World Cup? I mean, are there any major changes, any major surprises that we can expect?
I mean, the big thing that people are worried about is the halftime show at the final. As you know, football halftime is supposed to be 15 minutes, but this could go on for much, much longer than that as Madonna and Shakira et al. Show their stuff. I think that generally there's a fear always that Americans will turn what is a passion into a show. And I think the other big innovation is that Donald Trump is going to kind of be attempting to replace Leo Messi as the star of the World Cup, commenting on the action every day, insulting other countries and so on.
Do you think that this American World Cup is going to set the tone for future hosts of the event in the next couple of years?
I think for FIFA, it's kind of an experiment. Will the world put up with these outrageous ticket prices? Does the world want a halftime show? And if that works out, then FIFA would love to keep ticket prices at that kind of level. I mean, nowhere else in the world can you offer sports tickets at the same prices in the US, but still, World Cup tickets have always been affordable. That was the tradition. And they're now trying something else and seeing if it works.
Well, there you have it. Award-winning journalist and best-selling author Simon Kuper. Details of his book, World Cup Fever, A Soccer Journey in 9 Tournaments, will be up on the Sandton Times website. So if you want to get that, we'll share that with you. And Simon, I thank you for making the time to jump on a call and chat to us.
Great pleasure. Thank you, Alexander.
Keep listening.
There's more to come on the Sandton Times Hour.
As we kick off the second half of the Sandton Times Hour, my name is Alexander Leipner. And just a quick reminder that if you caught anything on the show this week, and you want to discover a little bit more about the topic, don't forget we'll put all the details up on the website under show notes. This week's edition, you can find it on the website. And of course, you can also subscribe to the podcast there. And if you'd like to revisit some of the conversations and some of the chats and interviews we've had, well, you can also share those as well with friends, family, colleagues, and whoever else you think might find that interesting. Also, be sure to check out the social media accounts at Sandton Times, and also use the WhatsApp number 084 Sandton. That's 084 726 3866. You can send through your voice notes, text messages, media, and so much more. And that's the Sandton Times WhatsApp number, and that's the exclusive WhatsApp number for the Sandton Times Hour. It's time to connect with Tat Wolfen, our regular entertainment commentator, and we're keeping the soccer theme going, even though we head into streaming and screening territory. And Tat, you've got some football-inspired movies for us this week.
I wanted to tell you about a couple of, shall we say, contemporary classic footy movies. The two that I'm going to mention now are actually not available on streaming because, as I've often moaned, our local streaming services don't really offer us an enormous choice, but they may be in your personal collection, or if you're lucky enough to live near a video hire shop, you may still be able to get them. In fact, I could almost guarantee that you could get them on DVD and Blu-ray. The first one goes right back to 1980, and it's directed by that great British director, Bill Forsyth, and the movie was called Gregory's Girl. It's actually set in Scotland, and it's a teen romance about this gawky, lanky kid who has this fatal crush on this girl at school. And the theme is soccer. And I think it's one of the most charming movies you'll see. And you don't often associate charm with football, but there it is. So it's called Gregory's Girl from 1980. And then there's another contemporary classic about footy, and I know that it's one of your favorites.
Yes.
And if I told you the title began with a B, you would say it's called?
Bend It Like Beckham.
Of course, yes. Directed by Gurinder Chadha, the Indian UK director, whom I was very lucky to interview a few years ago. And it's also a charming, funny movie about a young Indian UK girl who wants to play footy, but her parents are very traditional and they just don't think it's right for a young lady to want to play football, which is a men's sport. So she has that sort of conflict to overcome. And for me, another bonus in this movie is that it co-stars Keira Knightley, and Keira Knightley, that I think she is one of the most stunning women that ever graced a screen. Okay, Alex, so now I'm going to nimbly pass the ball over to you.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to take your ball and I'm going to run with a series I started watching now on Netflix. The one is Class of 96, Rise of a Nation. It's an in-depth 6-part documentary series that revisits that incredible Bafana Bafana squad of 1996 that won the Africa Cup of Nations and then also qualified for the first ever FIFA World Cup for South Africa just after we became a democratic country. And it is just a really well-produced series. Faces like Dr. Khumalo, Clive Barker, all these names start coming back again, and it is a beautiful piece of South African IP that I think is really worth watching. I know it was being shown on various different platforms as well, but I've just managed to catch it on Netflix. And then another interesting one, it's called Mexico 86, which is also on Netflix, which retells the story of Mexico hosting the 1986 FIFA World Cup. Maybe quite appropriate now that they're hosting it again in 2026. But then, Tat, you've also got something football related on streaming that we can catch up on.
I do indeed. I thought, why not let's end this segment on a low note? Because, this business of ending on a positive note has become very cliche. Okay, so this is a movie also on Netflix called Next Goal Wins. And it's directed by Taika Waititi, who I think most memorably made the movie Jojo. If you've seen the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. It was called Jojo Rabbit. Quite controversial and darkly comedic. But anyway, Next Goal Wins had a very interesting synopsis. So I thought, okay, this could be fun. And it's very loosely based on the story of this soccer team from American Samoa. Because there's Samoa and then there's American Samoa, just in case you didn't know. Mm-hmm. And the American Samoa soccer team in 2001 played a FIFA match. I don't know how they even got into a FIFA tournament, but they played against Australia, and they notoriously lost 31-0.
Oh, wow.
31-0. So they then decided to hire, because their coach was clearly useless. Was it the coach? Was it the players? Was it both? But either way, they decided to hire this guy who had been a famous football player, and they bring him on board. And in the movie, he's played by Michael Fassbender. So the premise was quite interesting and entertaining, but it just falls flat. I must tell you, I didn't last more than halfway through. Eventually, I gave up on it. The Fassbender character is supposed to be deadpan, but you still have to deliver a deadpan performance. Whereas I just got the sense that he just walked on set and thought like, okay, well, they're going to pay me to do this thing, so let's just do it. Because his performance was nothingness. It was like staring into a void. And so the premise was interesting and entertaining, but by halfway through, I thought, no, I have more interesting things to do, such as cleaning out the cat litter box.
Well, there you have it. Before we have to end the segment in a penalty shootout, Tat Wolfen coming with Bend It Like Beckham and Gregory's Girl. I added Class of 96, Rise of a Nation, Mexico 86, so both of those on Netflix, and then finishing it off with Next Goal Wins. Maybe this particular movie is one to skip. But Tat, good to chat again. Let's do it again next week.
I look forward to it. Cheers, Alex.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
As excitement builds ahead of the 2026 FIFA World Cup, attention is not only focused on Bafana Bafana's prospects on the pitch, but also on what the team will be wearing when they step onto football's grander stage. A World Cup kit is far more than a uniform. It is a symbol of national pride, identity, and ambition, often becoming part of a country's footballing legacy. In a bit, we take a closer look at Bafana Bafana's 2026 World Cup kit, exploring its design, inspiration, fan reaction, and how it compares to some of South Africa's most memorable football jerseys. Joining me from Mexico right now is Bob Maphosa. He's Adidas's football sports marketing manager. And Bob, it's good to have you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you for allowing me to be part of the show.
Bob, you've got a very busy time of the year, if not of your life at the moment, having to be on the ground with Bafana Bafana. So I really appreciate you making the time. Tell me, what's the temperature like at the moment in Mexico? What's the vibe like?
Yeah, no, listen, I think obviously from a weather perspective, from what we planned and what we had heading here was that it's going to be exorbitant in terms of heat and stuff. We haven't experienced it yet. So probably that's the lucky part of it, that we still kind of have it on our side. But I think just the time difference is the one that probably taking its toll on some of us. That part of it really is becoming an 18-hour day. But I'm sure as the time comes closer to first, obviously the opening game, I think we'll have acclimatized and we'll be better off and feeling better, I think, of ourselves.
What's the mood like in Mexico at the moment? Are you having sort of 2010 flashbacks of when we hosted the World Cup in South Africa?
I would say probably yesterday's training session kind of really brought that into it. There's really love from the Mexicans. I think when you're driving by, there's really that obviously identifying that here is the team that's kind of obviously came through. And I think the people of Pachuca themselves are really kind of obviously rallying behind and are showing themselves in terms of support. It's nice to see that appreciation obviously coming from the locals. So I think being away from home, that's what you need. And I'm sure the players appreciate that.
Adidas developed a brand new jersey for this World Cup. A stunning design, if I say so myself. I had a chance to look at it, and I think it just looks amazing. Why the decision to go with this design and this look and feel?
Yeah, I think obviously we have been 15 years out of it. The last time we were there, we were partners, where it was in 2010. So we really kind of obviously, us giving the opportunity to get back with the Federation, really kind of obviously got us thinking back to obviously that last part, how the relationship was. We left it at a high. I think that 2010 jersey, you still see it out within the fans. And I think they obviously, from a Federation point of view, the brief was that they will remain yellow kind of gold for home. And I think that going back to the 11 languages at the time when we kind of played, now that we've got 12, is that setup that really kind of evoked, listen, let's continue on that kind of obviously design element of the 2010, but bringing some newness from obviously from a technology space and the striping, the wider striping on it. But I think definitely wanting to be truly South African back again with our green and golds. So we've stayed true, obviously, with the home jersey. But there was obviously something, cooking, brewing around the world in terms of our originals logo, the trefoil coming into football. That's where with the green one, the fashion element, the newness and kind of setup, that's where obviously the designers thought of that. And because it wasn't only us, it was the rest of the other Adidas federations around the world in a year that there was the World Cup. I think that part of it really obviously went very well. And the acceptance by the South Africans to see us, the partnership side of things, but also from a product side where they are appreciating where we landed and how we are starting off obviously with the coming back. I think it's been two huge moments for us. The return, plus the product offering, that really makes it look professional and look like obviously the fans and everyone else in football is appreciating.
How well has this design been received by the fans and by those who've gone out to spend their money on this jersey?
No, listen, I think it's incredible. I think the vibes around it, just how the South African fans obviously have shown love to it. Not only shown love, they went into store to pick it up. So there's kind of really, it's not only being loved outside, but people are really buying it. That's that first week. we were already obviously from missing some sizes at some doors that we had to kind of quickly replenish. So that part of it with the launch, I think it was exciting to see and obviously say that our designers hit the right note in terms of how they wanted to be to represent South Africa at the World Cups. And I do know that there have been a lot of kind of obviously polls that have been doing with the best jersey and we've rated high in that as well. So it's not only South African fans seeing it, but it does look like appreciation just all around the world. The people that have seen it, they have really kind of chosen it as one of the best designs.
Well, the soccer hurricane is still about to hit you. I think once the first couple of games start coming into play and Bafana Bafana starts performing, I think the demand is going to go through the roof. How are you preparing for that? Have you got extra capacity to produce enough jerseys?
Yeah, obviously, I think from our end, we plan around the launch times, and obviously we plan ahead of the setup. I think in terms of plans, this is where we are now. We were planning for this moment. Our aim was that everyone else with the Football Fridays coming and everything else, when we build this, obviously, this vibe against the joyfulness of our nation, as we know, obviously, when we kind of come out with these Football World Cups towards the viewings, if you still haven't got your one, then you are late.
Well, there you have the warning. There you have it. If you haven't got one yet, it might be too late, but hopefully it isn't. Bob Maphosa, Adidas Football Sports Marketing Manager, we wish you all the best. Please send our regards to the men who are going to be representing us on the field this coming week. And we will send them best wishes from certainly everyone on the show, the entire country and listeners. And fingers crossed we take it the full way.
No, definitely. I think the vibe is high within the camp. And definitely we are obviously looking forward to that opening match. Obviously, the reliving 2010. Let's see if we get another scotch of a goal again in Mexico this time, and that we can think of it for the coming years.
I'm sure we can't wait. Listen, Bob, thank you so much for making the time, and all the best back to Mexico.
Thank you, Alex.
That's the full-time whistle, and we're going to have to call it for this week's Sandton Times Hour. Feel free to send through your questions or comments. You can email editor@sandtontimes.co.za. Connect with us on social media @Sandton Times and check out the website sandtontimes.co.za. Don't forget that WhatsApp line exclusive to the Sandton Times Hour, 084 Sandton. That's 084 726 3866 for all your voice notes and text messages. As always, make sure to subscribe to the podcast and join the growing digital community online. Thank you to all my guests who made time to be on the show this week, as well as the team behind the scenes working feverishly to pull this together every single week. A very special thank you to you for listening, and God willing, we'll do it all again next week.
Winner of the 2025 Telkom Radio Awards, Best Talk Show.
This is the Sandton Times Hour.